Welcome up your next storyteller, Carapace's favorite. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for David Russell.
Really good. Let's keep it going for Chris Gray for coming out. I really enjoyed this. I remember when our show was in the old room, every picture of me would be looking that way because I'd be desperately seeking their approval. So it's great that they're here and amazing. And thank you for Shannon for putting this on. This is great. When I graduated from grad school in Buffalo in May, and it snowed on my graduation day, I decided that I would be looking for my dream library job down south in a warmer climate because this body is not meant to shovel anymore. So I searched and searched for 6 months while working at the Barnes & Noble, and finally found a job down south. And I was thrilled. It was a library job, and I moved everything down for my dream library job in Georgia. And I kept the Barnes & Noble job too, so I was making money, I was saving money, I was very proud of myself. And 10 months into that job at the library, they very undreamily told me that my services would not be needed anymore. So I only had Barnes & Noble, and I had a couple months to figure it out. So out of that 8 weeks, I took about 7 weeks and 5 days of just denying everything that was happening, and had about 2 days left to move everything out of my apartment and figure out a place to live. And so I did that. So it was 2 days. I got a moving truck secured to move everything I had to a storage unit, and dropped my keys off that day, gave work as my next address, and went to Barnes & Noble that day, having no idea where I would live that night, besides some sort of like vague idea that like some sort of Temu version of the mix-up files of this basically Breckwiler, where I would like sneak back into Barnes & Noble and like live there at night, which is way less exciting than an art museum. So then I remember that day at work that one of our coworkers kept asking other coworkers to like live with them, which sounds very cultish when I'm saying it out loud. But then, you know, beggars can't be choosers. So I asked her that day, and I was like, "Can I live with y'all?" And she made a few phone calls, and that night I was living with them, which was like, I'm like, life is so easy. Like, of course, it's so easy. Why didn't I just like, yeah. And she gave me no details. All I knew about like her and her roommates is they were really into anime and anime conventions. But they must have really trusted me, which I was touched by. Like they trusted me more than I trusted myself. Because they were like, hey, by the way, the next morning, we're all going to FrolicCon for the entire weekend. So you have the house to yourself with our 4 cats. They didn't even ask me if I was like a cat person or responsible. And here I am, it's me and 4 cats, and I assume that FrolicCon is an anime convention. Where it's like anime with like a Swedish event, or like where people frolic, you know? Like, I don't know. And it is not. The official tagline for FrolicCon is where naughty meets nerdy. Had I Googled what FrolicCon was, it would have saved me from my near-death experience that weekend and a lot of other aggravation in the next year before I could leave and find more stable housing. But that weekend I knew none of that. I was happy. I had a house by myself. It was great. I was wandering around. I got some groceries. I had ice cream for lunch. And I was like, you know what? I forgot chocolate sauce. Again, everything would have made more sense if I had Googled. Because, spoiler alert, 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, these people, I was coming home from work. I was putting my Stoker's macaroni and cheese into the microwave. And these people were like, "Are you going to be home for the next few minutes?" And I said, "Yes, I will be home for the next few minutes." And they said, "Great, we're having a swingers party, and we're heading to Waffle House to pick up food, so you can watch the door and let people know that we'll be back in a few minutes." I would never trust myself to do that, but they trusted me to be swinger doorman. Barely knowing. And I would have appreciated if my coworker had said, "You're going to have a house chore if you choose to live there, and your house chore will be swinger doorman." I would have understood a lot more about my previous near-death experience and everything else if they had been more communicative, or if I had Googled frolic. But that day, I didn't know any of that, so I went and I thought I had found chocolate syrup in the back of their refrigerator. So I dumped it all over and I watched TV, and I had a great time, but it didn't taste right. Because the chocolate syrup didn't taste right, I immediately assumed it was organic. I assume it's just healthy and I'm not used to it. So I ate this whole thing, and it was like there's something wrong. So I went back to the fridge, and I looked a little more closely at the bottle that I had just dumped over all of my ice cream. And it was not chocolate syrup that was organic or otherwise. It was body paint that was edible, that had an expiration date that was 2 years in the past for what I had just eaten. So what I did what anybody would do in that situation. I called poison control. And I said, "Hello, I have just ingested chocolate-flavored body paint. And am I going to die?" So they were like, "What? Hold on." And I was like, "That's not comforting." So we went through all the ingredients, and they're like, "You should be fine." And I was like, "That's not, comforting." Because by this point, all the cats are on the table. Meow, meow. Like, is there like an aura around me? They know I'm about to die. And they're coursing through every single vein and bone in my body, like they know it. And what is my obituary going to read? And like, what are my parents going to have to say? Like, what did he do? How did he die? He died because, he accidentally ingested body paint that was expired. I was thinking a lot of things. So finally I was like, listen, I was talking to this guy, he was very helpful. And I was like, should I just pull the trigger? And he was like, no, don't kill yourself. And I was like, no, and then throw up. And he's like, well, just drink water, you'll be fine. And still, I didn't believe I was stressed out. And it was fine. Spoiler alert, I'm still here. And if I had Googled for all time, I would have been more careful about what I took from their fridge. But because I have residual Catholic guilt, I also went to Starship and replaced what they had with something new. Because I was always taught to leave a place better than when you found it.
David Russell, ladies and gentlemen.